Want to get creeped out? Let's talk about someone else who tried the Three Kings ritual, and this is another one that is one of the scariest ones ever. If you don't know what the Three Kings ritual is, it's a way to see the shadow side, and it's typically terrifying, but sometimes people have enlightening experiences. I do have a video pinned on my page explaining it. For storytelling purposes, we will name this person Thomas. Thomas was the father to 3 daughters that were aged between 13 to 17. All of his daughters were obsessed with Harry Potter, witchcraft, the occult, ghost stories, and the like. His middle daughter found the Three Kings ritual, and her sisters immediately became obsessed with it, and they were always reading Three Kings ritual stories. They would always ask Thomas if he would do the ritual, and he would always laugh and say no. But to be honest, it was piquing his curiosity as well. He shared that he was a big horror fan himself and that his family was very much into ghouls and ghosts, and he found himself to be pretty superstitious. Of course, that gave him another reason not to do it, because he knew he shouldn't really mess with that kind of thing. But as he said, his daughters brought it up often, and eventually he caved. Thomas also goes on to explain that he is a yes dad. The girl's mother left when the youngest daughter was 4, and he always found himself trying to overcompensate for that missing parent. If his daughters wanted to play with Barbies, he played with Barbies. If his daughters wanted to learn baseball, he learned baseball. If they all wanted to dress up as Harry Potter characters for Halloween, they all dressed up as Harry Potter characters for Halloween. If they wanted to practice doing makeup, he would let them powder his face. He also goes on to say this wasn't to boast about himself because there are so many single mothers doing the same thing, but it's really just to point out that he was a yes dad. He always said yes to everything, even if it was something he would rather not do. Once he said yes, they waited for a Friday so that no one would have to go to work or school the next day. All 3 of the girls were going to be his loved ones because they all wanted to be included. They set everything up in a room that used to be the girls' playroom. They set up the chairs, the mirrors, the bucket of water, the fan, and they made sure to leave the door open. Thomas's power object was going to be a picture that all 3 of the girls had drawn for him when they were little. The 4 watched movies and then went to bed at around 11 p.m. They all set their alarms for 3:30 in the morning. Their alarms went off and they made their way towards the old playroom. The girls immediately noticed that the door to the playroom was closed, which is a big red flag. Thomas said his girls all started fighting and arguing, saying, "Who closed this door?" All of them were accusing each other. They all adamantly denied that none of them had closed the door. But Thomas wasn't worried. He didn't think this was real anyway, so he was going to go ahead with the ritual, but his girls would not let him. The girls begged and pleaded with him that they needed to leave the house, get a hotel room for the night, and stay there until morning. Thomas told them absolutely not. Not only did he think this was ludicrous, but they also just couldn't afford to go and stay in a hotel room for the night. He shared they made do, but it was no easy task paying all the bills with one single income. The girls were hysterical, but eventually Thomas convinced them that this was internet fiction made to entertain. He convinced the girls to go to sleep, and he himself went to sleep. Around an hour later, the entire family woke up to a screeching alarm sound. The intrusion alarm in the house had gone off. His girls were crying and telling him it's because of the Three Kings ritual. Follow for part 2, and if you like the Three Kings ritual series, go to my profile and click on series. I've got the scariest ones in a playlist. It's really cheap, like $2, and it is the scariest stories, and they've never been heard before. But this one is terrifying too, so follow for part 2.